Welcome everyone to a special weekend edition of NoDQ&A video here on NoDQ.com. WWE TLC is this coming Sunday live on pay-per-view, so make sure you check out NoDQ.com for all the live coverage and results. On that note, let's get right down to your questions about the world of wrestling. Hey Aaron, great show. Anyways, with the question. With Rey Mysterio coming back at the Slammies, do you think we will still see Rey Mysterio versus Sin Cara at WrestleMania, knowing that Rock and John Cena are going to steal the show or on a different pay-per-view event? At this point, it's looking like it's going to be a different pay-per-view event. Rey Mysterio is still recovering from his injuries, and he said recently that he was going to not come back too soon, and therefore he would most likely be returning to action sometime around May, which of course means he will miss WrestleMania. And Sin Cara, on the other hand, he was expected to be out about 6 months, but apparently he's going to try to come back sooner and try to make it in time for WrestleMania 28 and collect the big paycheck. So who knows if Sin Cara comes back, who he'll be facing. Maybe they'll bring in another Mexican superstar to face him. Who knows? But yeah, it seems unlikely at this point that we're going to have the Mysterio-Cara WrestleMania match, but you never know. Hey Aaron, I saw your poll on NoDQ about Vince Russo being voted the most hated man in wrestling history. Do you agree with this? Yeah, I would have to say that Vince Russo is the most hated man in wrestling in terms of both the fans and the people behind the scenes in wrestling, because pretty much everyone credits Russo as the top guy responsible for the demise of WCW back around 2000, 2001. Well, not 2001, he was already gone by then, but by the time he left, the damage was already done, and there was really no hope for WCW after Russo got through with it. And yeah, just a lot of resentment from fans because the Monday Night Wars was considered the peak era in wrestling history. And when WCW went down, you know, wrestling was never the same again. And a lot of that can be attributed to Russo and his Crash TV booking style, just making everything in WCW meaningless. The titles meant nothing. The characters meant nothing because they were turning heel, turning face every single week. Title changes every week, and just storylines that were very difficult to follow. So yeah, and you know, behind the scenes, a lot of people lost their jobs. You know, Jim Cornette has talked about Russo and how, you know, he ruined a lot of people's lives in WCW, and you know, some of the things Russo also did, you know, to mock JR with the Bell's palsy with Oklahoma and things like that. So yeah, I agree with the sentiment of the fans on that poll, definitely. I think Kane returning with his mask and all is a big deal, and WWE could do something big with Kane for WrestleMania. If Taker is fighting Triple H, Jericho is fighting CM Punk for the title, and Cena is fighting Rock, who would be a good opponent for Kane to have at WrestleMania? Well, I said this before. I would actually like to see Kane win the Royal Rumble because in so many years prior, he was the most dominant force. So why not have him finally win the big one here and go on to WrestleMania to compete for the World Heavyweight title? And you could also have Daniel Bryan cash in his Money in the Bank and make a triple threat match. Kane versus Mark Henry, who's the champion still, and Daniel Bryan, three-way for the World Heavyweight title. I think that would be a good match, and you have 3 different styles in there, and I think Bryan would make it work really well. And that way, if they wanted to change the title too, they could have Bryan beat Mark Henry and then protect Kane and not have Kane have to lose a match at WrestleMania when they're putting so much stock into him right now. And then you could always go with Daniel Bryan versus Kane as a future feud after WrestleMania. So, I mean, that's what I would do, but I'm sure it's going to end up different. Who knows who's Kane's going to end up fighting? I have no idea. Not really impressed with Ryder that much. I think he is at most another Scotty 2 Hotty. All this goofiness is fun for a while, but he needs to develop serious character. Do you think fans would eventually turn against him? Well, you definitely bring up a good point. I think after a while, if Ryder doesn't start to evolve the character and take a more serious approach to it, I do see fans starting to turn on him. You know, especially the internet fans are very unforgiving, and they want something fresh and new all the time. And you know, they're the ones that, you know, when Batista and Big Show came out in the Hammerstein Ballroom for that episode of ECW, they were like chanting same old shit, and you know. So they want to see some different stuff, and they don't want to see the same thing over and over and over again. So yeah, hopefully, like I said, Ryder continues to build his character and continue to evolve it over time, and that way he'll be able to reach the next level and perhaps someday carry WWE and be the top guy, because he certainly has the potential, and he's building his fan every day. He's gaining new fans. So we'll see what happens with Zack Ryder. Hopefully he makes it to that next level, because WWE really needs somebody. They really need a new John Cena, or Batista, or Randy Orton, or something like that. Somebody who can carry the company for the next decade. And hopefully it won't be a decade. Hopefully in 5 or 6 years after Ryder becomes the top guy, they'll have another guy ready to go in a perfect world, but who knows. This is probably a tough question, but which wrestler do you think drastically improved their in-ring performance the most throughout their career? I think DDP made huge strides in the mid-90s, but Batista might be number one since he was so horrible at first. I'm going to have to go with Undertaker, because when Undertaker first came in, I mean, part of it was because he wasn't in matches with the right people, but also he just wasn't really that good when he first came into WWE. And, he was doing the gimmick, the dead man gimmick, and that, that didn't require a whole lot of animation. He was, very stiff character, so to speak. But his matches drastically improved over the years. I mean, he went from, having arguably the worst matches on a card to having the best matches by around 97, 98. Him with Shawn Michaels, the Hell in the Cell, and, those were awesome matches, and Bret Hart. And then Undertaker even got better, and, with Kurt Angle and all those guys in the 21st century. So I'm going to have to say Undertaker. And, DDP's definitely up there. Batista's up there. And I'd also say Miz, too. I mean, Miz has drastically improved since he first came into WWE coming off the Real World. How much more watchable would the WWE product be if Michael Cole was taken off the air? It's not so much taking Michael Cole off the air as they really need a new top babyface play-by-play guy who can sell the action and make it believable and get the fans interested. That was what was so great about JR is, when he would call something, he was so convincing and he was so into it and so animated that, you really felt what he was saying. With Michael Cole, it's just there's no emotion there. And it's not that he's a terrible announcer. I mean, I think he's actually a fairly decent announcer, and he's a good heel character. But him trying to be, like I've said before, him trying to be the heel play-by-play announcer and try to be the babyface announcer at the same time just doesn't work. And he needs to either drop the heel character completely or stop doing the announcing and maybe do not commentary, like a manager type role or something like that. Yeah, they really need to change it up, and they just need somebody new in there. The bottom line, and it's easier said than done to try to find a new JR, but that's really what they need. All right, that'll do it for this edition NoDQ&A video. Like I said before, make sure you stop by NoDQ.com this weekend for WWE TLC coverage. And, of course, stay tuned to NoDQ.com December 30th, UFC 141. I will be there in attendance in Las Vegas to cover the event. And I'll have some of my associates with me, and we'll all be talking about UFC. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/NoDQDOTCOM. And on that, we'll see you next time.